Welcome back to Power and Politics. I'm Vashi Capellos, coming to you from Ottawa. That was the leader of the official opposition, the Conservatives, Aaron O'Toole, with some of his criticism for the economic update, I should say, or fiscal update presented today by the government. We want to get some response to some of that criticism and also some more details about what the government has laid out today from the Minister of Finance and, of course, our country's Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland. She joins us here in Ottawa. Hi, Minister. Good to have you on the show. Thanks for making the time.
Good to be with you, Vashi.
I have some general questions about what you presented today, but I actually wanted to start off on something that I think resonates with a lot of people watching this show, and that is the way in which you describe in this document that this is a she session, that you put forward a feminist plan. And I want to zero in specifically on daycare, because though it's something that you signaled would be coming in the throne speech, and there are, some announcements associated with it in this document, there is no specific plan or date to which something concrete is coming out. I just want to ask, first of all, will what is concrete coming out be a national universal plan for childcare, and will the details of that be in the budget next year?
So, Vashi, as I explained today, and I'm really glad to have a chance to kind of lean in on it, I personally believe so strongly and so passionately that the time has come for universal early learning and childcare across Canada. The Royal Commission on the Status of Women, 50th anniversary of its report will be December 7th, and that Royal Commission recommended that the federal government urgently begin negotiations with provinces and territories for nationwide early learning and childcare. I was 2 years old, 2 years and a bit, Vashi, when that report came out. It is time to get it done. And you know what? We have real evidence that it works. And that evidence is to be found in the province of Quebec. They have found not only does early learning and childcare, does providing it make life so much easier for families, but it delivers economically. Quebec has seen much higher participation of women in the labor force, and that has helped the economy to grow. So I think today we are seeing a very strong economic argument for early learning and childcare, and that is why I think now is the time to get it done. Now, the reality is, in our beautiful, complicated confederation, when you work in areas where there is federal and provincial collaboration required, it can take a little bit of time and be a little bit complicated to get things done. So that's why I think, Canadians need to appreciate this is not the kind of program that can just be announced by a federal government finance minister. It's the kind of program that requires careful collaboration with provinces and territories, and frankly, that requires listening from the federal government. We're going to do that, but I do want to say to all Canadians, especially to all Canadian women, this is something I am personally very committed to doing, and I really believe we are at a turning point in our country. I think that there is really a mass of public opinion, including when it comes to, people in big companies, when it comes to Canadian economists. People see that it works, and I think we have to lean into this and get this done.
I certainly take your point that it's not something anyone can sort of snap their fingers and it will appear. But like you said, there have been reports for 50 years pointing out the efficacy of such a program. And your government has been, other governments didn't do it, but your government has also been in power for 5 years. And I just think, time is not on the side of women who are experiencing this she session right now either, right? So if it's not coming for 6 months, and I don't mean it just the whole thing pops up, but even something more concrete than what was provided today, some more details that they can count on, it certainly won't help them get through this she session at this point.
Fair enough, Vashi. And look, if there were some kind of a magic wand that federal finance ministers possessed that I could wave to have universal early learning and childcare, let me tell you, Vashi, I would be waving that wand right now, and I would have done it the day I became finance minister. It's going to take some careful and thoughtful work, and we are beginning that work right now. And what I would say to all of the women, and it's not just women, to all of the parents across the country who know how important this is, please help me. We need to build a national coalition to really say this needs to be a priority for our society and for our economy. And I can tell you, I am really prepared to put my shoulder to the wheel on this one.
Okay, two specific questions where provinces are concerned for you, Minister. First of all, around the health transfer. I noticed one mention of it in the document, and it was to point out that as a result of the Safe Restart program, federal health supports for provinces are up 23% relative to last year's Canada Health Transfer. Are we to interpret that as there isn't a more permanent increase to the transfer coming?
You are a very careful reader, Vashi. Thank you for that. That reference was quite intentional. And, when we added up the numbers, we saw something, that I think has actually been evident to Canadians since the beginning of this crisis, that the federal government has been there to support the health effort, which of course is done on the front lines by provinces and territories. And that's what we need to focus on. The COVID wolf is still at the door, and now is the time for the federal government working with provinces and territories to get through this last hard slog of the next few months fighting COVID-19. And I want to say to the provinces and territories, we have been there so far. We are going to continue to be there.
I think I understand that sort of addressed part of my question, but not directly answered it. Does that mean that a permanent increase to the Canada Health Transfer is not coming?
I chose my words with care, Vashi.
But they didn't answer the question.
We have provided tremendous support to the healthcare effort fighting COVID-19 so far. We are going to continue to be focused on that effort.
Long-term care money, another announcement in this, $1 billion. I noticed that the section that described what that money would do was a little bit separate from the section around national standards. Can we interpret that to mean that that money is not tied to provinces meeting whatever standards are set up, that it'll be a separate pot of money?
Well, look, the work on long-term standards, the work on national standards, like all standards set in sort of respectful conversation among provinces and territories and between provinces and territories and the federal government, is work that, again, like early learning and childcare, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of discussion. It takes a lot of consensus building. But we also know that the crisis in long-term care facilities is urgent. It's there right now. And that is why we committed today to providing an additional $1 billion to provinces and territories to help protect our elders.
So you don't anticipate those standards will be set up for a while? I asked just because Minister LeBlanc was on the show over a month ago saying it might only be weeks before the standards are set up.
Vashi, I would love the standards to be set up very, very quickly. And, let me take this opportunity while I'm talking with you to urge all the people who are working on them to really, let's turbocharge these conversations. Let's get this done. Canadians really want it to be done. But I think, Vashi, I'm sure you will agree with me, and I know every single Canadian who's in a long-term care facility or who has a loved one who is there will certainly agree that we need to provide the support right now, and that's what we're doing with this $1 billion to do what we can to help ensure that these places are safe for our elders. Too many Canadian seniors have died from COVID-19 so far, and the toll continues to be really, really devastating. And that's why we have to do this, and we have to do it now. Speaking
of supports, Minister, I know you have to go. I have one final question for you, and that is around some of the criticism that I know you're familiar with from the official opposition, and essentially the importance of a vaccine distribution plan to an economic recovery or even just dealing with the effects of the pandemic right now. I know that your government, and you specifically, continues to point out the portfolio that you've put together, the deals that you've made with 7 different vaccine candidates. But there is truth to the fact that there is no specific plan really laid out. We just get bits and pieces. Minister LeBlanc the other day says 6 million doses are coming in January. We are getting more detail from some of our allies, like the US and like the UK. When do you anticipate your government will be able to tell Canadians in more finite detail when they are going to be vaccinated?
Vashi, the focus on vaccines is one that I really, really share. Vaccination of Canadians is going to be one of the most important things we do in the days ahead. And that really is the light at the end of the tunnel that I spoke about today. As you said, we're in a good position because we have an extensive vaccine portfolio of vaccines we've already ordered. 10 doses for every Canadian. And I think, Vashi, it was CBC that had an interview with the chairman of Moderna, who talked about how Canada has been able to buy 20 million doses of the Moderna vaccine because we got in early. We took a risk on that vaccine, and we are rewarded with a really ample supply. Now, when it comes to the specifics of deployment, let me just say we have Major General Danny Fortin working very, very hard on logistics. No one is better at that than the Canadian Armed Forces. And we are going to get those vaccines to Canada. We're going to get them to Canadians. It's really important also for Canadians to appreciate that right now, 4 vaccines are submitting, or 4 pharmaceutical companies that have produced vaccines are submitting detailed information to the Health Canada regulators. These are called rolling reviews. That is Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and now Johnson & Johnson. So that shows that they have a lot of confidence in Canada, in the Canadian healthcare system. Those reviews are being done. And as soon as those reviews are done and we have approval, I can assure you, those vaccines will be rolled out across the country.
Okay, Minister, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Chrystia Freeland is Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.